Ahead of the new college basketball season, we have now officially seen the preseason poll. The Duke Blue Devils picked to win the league. That's the right call.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Thursday, October 16th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, we're going to focus on the Duke basketball team who was picked to win the ACC in the preseason poll. We'll also talk a little bit about the all-conference team players that were selected from Duke. And then in our final segment on today's show, we'll dive into Duke football's big football game on Saturday, taking on Georgia Tech. All of this will be joined by our good friend Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Go ahead and watch our show each and every day on YouTube as well. Like this video, share it with your friends, as your support means so much to everything we're doing here at Locked On Blue Devils. Really grateful for the everydayers that we've got, people that comment on each and every podcast, letting us know that they are an everydayer. Appreciate all that support right there. So without further ado, let's bring my good friend Conor O'Neill into today's program from the Devils Illustrated. I hope you're doing well, Conor. Here we are, about 5 days away from the next Duke basketball game, an exhibition game for the Blue Devils, a big football game coming up. How are things in your world?
Busy, especially when you put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's a good busy though, as things are starting to ramp up a little bit, and excited to talk basketball with you here right out of the top. And looking at this preseason poll that's been released, Duke comes in as the preseason pick to win the ACC, and I certainly agree with it. Shocker, Duke guy goes here and says that it's a good decision for Duke to be picked there towards the top. But I think we've talked about it all offseason, Conor, that everybody that Duke's got returning, plus a really talented freshman class, you could argue the best in the entire country, and just where Jon Scheyer has been the last couple of years, putting a team together, that's got to count for something. And then let me give the final bullet in the chamber here of the argument that the ACC has been so down the last few years that Duke has been the one known commodity. And so I feel like that would be kind of where you go. We know Duke is going to have their stuff figured out because they've done it year after year.
Yeah, you're kind of convincing me to go back and rewrite my story from yesterday that says I picked Louisville to win the league.
There you go. Yeah.
No, I think there's two top teams in the league. I think Duke and Louisville, and I think you can make an argument for either one. I trust Louisville's backcourt a little more than I trust Duke's. I need to see Caleb Foster outside of what we saw at the end of last season. I need to see that for a full season. I need to see it consistently. And I need to see Caden Boozer able to get his shot off. It's such a horizontal release that I don't know how well that's going to translate. I don't want to make this all about the negatives about Duke. They're a top 2 team in the league. They're a top 10 AP team. Like, they're going to be really, really good. I just think there's a little less margin for error than last year's team had. And I wrote this in my take on Devils Illustrated. Maybe I'm too much of a prisoner of looking at them in the prism of what they were last year and saying they're not going to be that, because nobody in college basketball is going to be that. We've talked about this. Like, it's likely nobody in college basketball this year is as good as any of the 4 teams that were in San Antonio last year. That was just such a special season when you look at the analytics of it, and probably when we look at the talent level that was in college basketball last year.
Yeah.
So Duke is not this year's Duke team. I think we've talked about this on an episode or two ago. This year's Duke team is never going to play last year's Duke team.
Right.
It's never going to be a matchup that comes to fruition. So I think this team is going to be really, really good. I give Louisville a slight edge because I know a little bit more about their guards. And they get some guys in the front court back that I think are also going to really help them. But it's 1A and 1B.
That's such a unique thought, and one that I think that I will now be thinking about as we play these first few games of the season. And okay, look at this team as just themselves, and you've got to train your brain to completely forget about almost what Cooper Flagg and the Blue Devils were able to do a season ago. Because I know that you're not the only. I'm sure there are going to be several Duke fans watching this that when they see a couple of games, they're going to get caught up wanting to compare what they see on the floor to what they saw a season ago. Nationally, when people tune in and try to evaluate what this Duke squad's going to be, you can't let that team have too much of an impact on what your eyes are watching this season.
Yeah, and I mean, it's human nature. Your Coach K used to talk about that all the time. You're fighting human nature. It's a losing battle most of the time. You just you have to retrain yourself to understand like this is a completely different team.
Yep.
The only thing that is static is the coaching staff, and that's changed. John Shire is still John Shire, but he would tell you that he's worked on himself since last year. So everything changes. I'm getting lost in looking at the poll results here. I think one of the other main takeaways, just something that stood out to me, was there are only 2 teams that even received a first place vote.
Yeah, for people listening, we've got the poll up on the screen here.
Yeah, you had no rogue like first place vote for Virginia to come through, or Clemson even, or anybody. Like, it is clearly.
I'm surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty clearly either you think Duke or Louisville is going to win this league.
34 first place votes for Duke, 15 first place votes for Louisville. Duke comes in with 866 points in the poll, and Louisville right behind him, 842. Everybody kind of puts a poll together. You filled this out yourself, Connor, as you said, with one of those picks for the Cardinals to win this thing, going all the way down 1-18. Shout out to Boston College, bringing up the caboose here.
I actually didn't vote in this league in the poll.
Okay. But this is how they would put it together, is that the people that did turn a ballot in. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be like, I don't have a vote, so I put together my hypothetical if I had a vote.
Okay.
This is what I would have voted.
Okay, there you go. And so, like you said, there weren't any rogue votes of the people that did put a vote in there.
I'm a big believer in Donald Hand Jr., but yeah, it's tough to see a way forward for Boston College to the top half of this league.
Yeah.
There really is. Once you get past a certain number, I want to say it's 5. Like, I think the top 5 is exactly the way I had it. I had Clemson above SMU, but teams 7 through 18, if you jumbled them up in any order pretty much, other than having something crazy like Stanford or BC in the top half, it would not surprise me at the end of the season. I mean, I could see things coming together for Luke Locks at Florida State. They're going to play really fast, and he's an NBA guy. Maybe that translates right away. I picked Virginia Tech, I think 8th or 9th. I think they have one of the best freshmen in the league, the Neoklis Avdalis from Greece. I'm kind of surprised Bay Dongo is still at Georgia Tech. I thought he was going to be a draft pick after his freshman year. If he becomes some 20-10 monster, Georgia Tech could beat some people. So where this league needs to be and where it needs to get back to is having a strong middle. It was top heavy last year with 3 teams that we knew were locks for the NCAA tournament. But after that, it was an awful league. It needs to get back to having a strong middle. So you're kind of putting faith in, okay, Clemson had a big bunch of roster turnover and Brad Brownell has to figure it out with new pieces. I kind of have faith that Brad Brownell figures it out. He's done it before. What does it look like with Syracuse and Nate George there? We act like we have all the answers. We do this in football and basketball, and man, it is not going to look like this. That's the one thing I'm guaranteeing. It will not look like this in March.
Yeah. So you've got Duke basketball picked to win the league. Top 5: Duke, Louisville, UNC, NC State, Virginia. Round out your top 5. And again, we've got the voting totals on the screen for those watching us on YouTube. To your point, improving the middle, Connor, 7 to 11. That's Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Wake Forest, all separated by just 100 points. So you can kind of look at the middle of this predicted order of finish from the media day gatherings there. And does feel like people are bringing kind of the middle together and figuring out, okay, who beats who in these scenarios and that sort of thing. And hopefully that will benefit the ACC come Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I had Wake up there at 7. And that might be, you're always more familiar with the team you cover than every other team in the league.
Sure.
And so I tend to think they're going to be deeper. Their offense is going to be better. It'd be hard to be worse than a 28.5% 3-point shooting team, which is where they were last year.
That's crazy.
But they've got an NBA assistant in there who's kind of revamped their offense. So I have Wake 7. I think I had SMU 8, Virginia Tech 9, like I said. And then it's like Miami, Syracuse, Notre Dame with Marcus Burton he's proven for 2 years that he can score at a really high level. Those teams have to win games in the non-conference more than anything. And it's not like we're talking about the ACC going into this season and they need to get 14 teams into the NCAA tournament to rival what the SEC did last year. The ACC just needs to get back to putting like a third of the league into the tournament. Get 6 of 18. Just don't do anything close to what last year looked like with only 4 of 18 going, and one of those being a first 4 team with the AD on the selection committee.
We'll see. We'll see how it all comes together. And North Carolina, it's always fun to see what the Tar Heels have cooking for this upcoming basketball season. We've got more kind of preseason results that I want to dive into here in just a moment with Conor O'Neill when our show continues on this Thursday edition of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Supply House is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The show today is also brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You could feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery and so much more. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Locked On Blue Devils on this Thursday. JJ Jackson hanging out with Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated. ACC tip-off has come and gone. It was last week in Charlotte. Conor was on hand for those festivities, and now we've seen all the results from a preseason poll and starting to put together all ACC teams. One thing that we were able to follow from afar, Conor, was there, like we have here on the program, there was a lot of chatter about Cameron Boozer and what this guy will be able to do in the ACC and for Duke specifically this season.
Yeah, where would you have his over-under for rebounds per game at?
I don't even
around 9.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be asked to do a whole lot, and controlling the glass is going to be one of those things.
Yeah. That was honestly, I think the best thing he does, and he does a lot of things really well, obviously, is rebound the basketball. I think he's just a powerful force on the inside. I want to see how he's used offensively. I don't think he'll have the ball in his hands as much. It's really hard to talk about this without talking about last year's team, and might be able to tell I'm struggling to do it. I don't think he's going to be as much of an initiator as Cooper Flagg was. I think it'll be more get him in space, get him in the open court, get him. John is so inherently opposed to the low post moves, like he's called the post up the worst play in basketball. It's very much an analytics thing, but I do kind of agree with him. That's where basketball is trending. But I do think he has a little bit of a skill set where if he has a smaller guy on him, just put him down on the low post and let him go to work. It's going to be really interesting to see how Duke uses him.
We saw, speaking of Cameron Boozer and what he's going to be able to do. And again, I think once we see this team play a little bit more, we'll stop making as many comparisons to last year because it'll be these new memories that are kind of on the brain, but everybody's falling guilty of that. Cameron Boozer was named one of the first team All-ACC guys ahead of this upcoming season, along with Louisville's Mikal Brown Jr., Ryan Conwell from the Cardinals as well, Darian Williams at NC State, Marcus Burton on the first team. And then Duke also has Isaiah Evans, a second team selection here, Bayandongo from Georgia Tech, who we talked about, along with UNC's Caleb Wilson, Boopy Miller from SMU, and JJ Starlink from Syracuse. So Cam Boozer, first team, Isaiah Evans gets that second team selection. And it feels good. We've been talking about these being the most important players on Duke, Duke's top two guys going into the season. And it feels like the rest of the league is expecting that out of John Shire's group too.
Yeah, it's just, it's going to be really interesting to see Isaiah Evans, what a normal game looks like from him.
Yeah.
Because we know what he looks like when he's hot.
Right.
We know what he looks like when he's cold. Where is the middle ground? How often can he hit the middle ground? How much? How many times can he, in the course of having one of those subpar games, kind of turn it into a middle ground type of game where he's still contributing? He's a hot and cold player, and he is wired to score the basketball. And it's. I don't know if there's a player on Duke's team I'm more interested in watching this year. Just purely interest level. Like, I want to see what it looks like sophomore year Isaiah Evans and how consistent he can be.
We've got to build out a sample of it, right? Because to your point, our samples right now are really, really great games shooting the basketball, and then a ton of games where he just wasn't asked to do a ton, didn't play a whole lot, or it was in there and wasn't making shots. And so to your point, what does that sample of kind of the middle ground look like? It seems as though when you talk to people around the program, what we've seen so far, and then just the chatter around him, is that people do believe that the sample size in the middle that we're looking for is going to be really good.
Yeah. They're high on him. They even to go back to the talking points during last season, he worked on his defense to the point where he could play in critical moments for this team. So as long as that keeps coming, as we've talked about several times, defense is how you earn your way onto the court and earn your minutes in a John Shire rotation. And so they're looking forward to sophomore year Isaiah Evans too.
Excited to see what Slim's able to do this upcoming season for Duke. And you could see first and second team, one of the top 10 players going into the season by these preseason selections. Anybody else stand out? We've got the list here on the screen for those watching us on YouTube. Connor, any thoughts on any of these guys?
It's interesting. I actually, the last two, I had teammates of theirs on my All-ACC team and not these players. I thought for SMU, I think the big guy from Turkey, Samet Igatolu, will have more of a jump. I think he has more of unreached potential than Boopy does. And I guess I need to actually look into the storylines on this. JJ Starling was dealing with a hand injury to his shooting hand about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I don't know how fully recovered he is from that.
Sounds problematic.
And I also was a big fan of Nate George and what he did at Georgia Tech the last 2 years. Like, I saw somebody had him on a breakout candidate list. And I was like, how the hell is he going to break out? He broke out. He's a stud. So that was my interestingly enough, like I had teammates of those guys on the second team on the list that I would have submitted, not them.
How about that? Well, yeah, we'll see how all this comes together for all ACC team selections and who plays what. We do think Cam Boozer and Isaiah Evans will be premier playmakers for Duke, and hopefully they're recognized by the conference at the end of the season, and they put together a really strong showing for the Blue Devils. We've got a big game on Saturday coming up first, as we are in the midst of football, and Duke's coming off a bye week. Georgia Tech, the next major opponent on the schedule here for the Blue Devils. We'll start to talk about that game in just a moment when Locked On Blue Devils continues. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The NFL season is here. It's in full swing, and they've got an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So what are you waiting for? Go get started. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Tonight, we have an AFC North matchup between the Steelers and the Bengals for the NFL's Thursday night football game. Pittsburgh favored by 5.5 over the Cincinnati Bengals. And then in the college football world, obviously, we're excited about the Duke and Georgia Tech game slated for Saturday at noon Eastern kickoff. Right now, the line's been going back and forth. FanDuel's got Duke favored by 1.5 points for the game set to be played at Wallace Wade Stadium. So make sure that you get involved in all the action with our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated is hanging out with us here, talking about the Duke and Georgia Tech game. Just talked about right now, Duke favored by 1.5 in this matchup. 4-2 on the season for the Blue Devils, coming off a bye week, taking on a Georgia Tech squad that has yet to lose a game this season. They're ranked number 12 in the entire country, slated for noon. And I've been reading a lot about the game, Connor. There's so much buzz around the Duke football program, and you just hope that Duke out of the gates is ready to rock and roll in a game like this.
Yeah, and if they're not ready out of the gates, 2 of the last 3 games, they've been down by 2 touchdowns in the first half, and they've gone to, I think both of them, they've taken a lead to halftime. I know they did at Cal, and I think the first second half lead they had, or first halftime lead was against NC State. So Duke is a funny team. I mean, they do some things that make you want to pull your hair out, but man, when they get rolling and when they get momentum on their side, it's been really hard for them to lose momentum. And this is a heavyweight battle. I mean, there's 3 3-0 teams in the ACC right now, and 2 of them are playing in Durham on Saturday. It's a big time matchup. Yeah,
all the jockeying that's going to take place within the ACC standings as you start to put together kind of the contenders to be there in the title game at the end of the year. This is going to have a whole lot to do with that ultimatum if both of these teams continue to play well after this game, right? Like ultimately you want to be able to point back and say, well, we won the head-to-head matchup in this one. Duke should feel good about this game being played at home at Wallace Wade Stadium. And in theory, you should feel awesome coming off a bye week, all the extra time that you've had to prepare for Georgia Tech. And I know the coaches and the players are saying all the right things as you would expect right now. But sometimes it feels like there's something to the body staying in the weekly routine of getting set for your Saturday games. And then you've got kind of the 1 day of rest. And then the next week, it just takes a little bit longer to get back going. And to your point, we've seen so many kind of early deficits from Duke. That would be a fear of mine when you look at this.
Yeah, I always say coming out of the off week, you're either rested or you're rusty. and trying to think back to what games were after their off weeks last year. I want to say maybe the Florida State game was. And so my recollection of that one, it was a bit of both. Like,
right.
Their offense was not good in that game, but their defense was really good in that game. And Chandler Rivers had another pick six against Florida State. He's really disappointed that they're not playing him this year because he's played Florida State twice and had 2 pick sixes against them. So, they needed an off week, especially when you look at their linebacker position. I mean, they had 2 playable linebackers the last time we saw them on our TVs. They should be back up to at least 4 or 5 in this game. So
that's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, you typically want linebackers.
Yes.
It's a position where you kind of have to have 2 of them on the field at the same time in every set that a team has.
No kidding.
So it's a good time for an off week. You would hope that a team, it's not the oldest team when you look at a lot of the depth positions for Duke are freshmen or redshirt freshmen, but when you have an older group of starters, when you have a leadership council, so to speak, of a ton of 4th and 5th year guys, then you would think those guys know how to approach this. They know how to get the younger guys in line a little bit more. They know how to approach having a week off after you've gone. It's not just through 6 weeks to start the season. It's a fall camp into 6 weeks to start the season. It's a long grind of about 2.5 months when you go 6 without an off week. So it's a good time for it, and we'll see soon enough whether it's rested or rusty.
I know that when Georgia Tech has been scouting this one, Darian Mensah obviously is who they're going to look to slow down. The Duke offense and the quarterback has been so incredible for the Blue Devils throughout the course of the season, been able to throw to so many different weapons. Offensively, it's just kind of hard to scout how you want to slow down the quarterback, particularly when the last few weeks it's been complemented by such great efforts in the ground game, in the rushing attack from the likes of Nate Shepard, Anderson Castle, and company.
Oh, it's just such a pick your poison offense at this point. And they go tempo, which makes it harder for you to sub against them. They go multiple personnel groupings. Like we've talked throughout the season about how much of a benefit it is to have 3 playable tight ends with Jeremiah Hazley, Landon King, and Jake Taylor. And then when they want to go jumbo, they throw big Tony Boggs in there, former offensive lineman who I'm still waiting on him to get his first target and see his hands at work. But their offense is everything. It feels like it's everything that they envisioned it could be. Like this is why they made the shrewd decision to basically cut loose Malik Murphy and go out and target Darian Mensah and say, we need him. We need his skill set. That's going to take our offense to the next level. This is what they envisioned with Cooper Barkate. Nobody would think that one of the best receivers in the ACC would be a guy that came from Harvard, but he's been that. Quayshawn Brown has kind of been on the developmental track to be arriving this year, and he's certainly arrived. Nate Shepard being a revelation in the backfield. I think they knew he would be special. I think he's a little ahead of the developmental curve, even in their best hopes. He's a phenomenal and special running back. So everything with this offense right now, you kind of want to see it on the field again because it's fun to watch. It's fun because they don't rely on 1 or 2 guys more than the others. It's a spread the wealth and pick your poison offense. That's
been my favorite part is that, you don't know really necessarily who we're going to be kind of the main targets of Darian Mensah from game to game, or if these running backs are going to pop and they're going to be finding the end zone, who's the running back actually scoring the touchdowns. Like it's just been so much fun to watch. And I know that we're set for a really big one against Georgia Tech coming up on Saturday. Connor, always so good to see you on the show here, my friend. I know that right now, we mentioned it, it's crossover season between basketball and football, tons of coverage over at Devils Illustrated. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, head to Devils Illustrated right now. The freshest thing up there right now is a feature on Duke winning the middle 8 of games, last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 of the second half. Something that Manny Diaz is like hammered into the team as far as how important it is. And Duke leads that segment of games this season 66-17.
Wow.
So taking the inside that and how important it is, that's all unique coverage at Devils Illustrated.
Thanks for the time. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And that's going to do it for our show here today. Thank you guys for your support. Be sure to subscribe to us for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video, share it with your friends. Thanks for making Locked On Blue Devils what it is each and every day. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.